And so joining us right now to talk a little bit more about that, Alex Wilkes, Executive Director of America Rising PAC, is joining us. And Alex, thanks for being here. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
So, Alex, like I said, there's been, I guess I would say probably leading up to Labor Day, things weren't looking so good. I mean, not only was it talk about the Republicans losing the House, but maybe even the Senate, and things were looking a little rough. And then Brett Kavanaugh gets confirmed, and it's a fight that the Republicans see as sort of uniting all aspects of the Republican Party. And not only that, but the Democrats seem to be stumbling a little bit as we get closer to the finish line. And now some are saying the Senate's definitely too far for the Democrats to be able to take over. Republicans might actually pick up seats, and they're saying now that the House might be in question. So, I mean, there's definitely been a huge momentum shift right now in this country.
I completely agree. I think that Dianne Feinstein is squarely to blame for the Democrats being locked out of the Senate this year. I mean, the Senate was always a tough map for the Democrats. They had 10 Democrats running in states that the president won in 2016. So we definitely had an advantage. That being said, incumbency is an important power in these races. And the fact that so many of them are starting to slip behind challengers, particularly after the Kavanaugh hearing, is pretty telling. On the House side, Republicans had a lot of seats to defend. And, in a midterm election, we're always worried about enthusiasm. We're worried about, all of those voters who came out in 2016 who were excited to come out and vote for the president, that the economy's doing well and they're going to get complacent and say, I don't need to come out and vote for this one. Well, I think the Kavanaugh hearing also woke up some of those voters as well, and they see the importance of coming out and voting. If for no other reason, then I think that the Kavanaugh hearings provide some insight into what we could expect from a Democratic-controlled House. It would just be investigation upon investigation. It would be, impeachment talk all day long. And I think that the voters out there, particularly independent voters, are pretty turned off by that kind of rhetoric. And
then on top of it, you have, and I saw this was a big story yesterday, a lot of Republican operatives sort of behind the scenes. One in particular, I think, arguing that Elizabeth Warren and Hillary Clinton were like manna from heaven because, within 2 days, we had Hillary Clinton on TV in an interview on CBS Sunday Morning say her husband should not have resigned and that, what happened is exactly how it should have happened, which sort of hurt this believe all women argument. And then you had Elizabeth Warren, who I think thought yesterday was going to be a mic drop moment for her with the whole Native American heritage situation, turned into a gigantic unforced error that even Obama alum were criticizing her for trying to change the messaging this close to a midterm. So not only did we have, like I said, success for the Republicans, but those two stories, just those, I mean, the two leaders of the Democratic Party, many people look at, stumbling this week, which I think frustrated and enraged a lot of Democrats.
Not Halloween yet, but the ghosts of the Democratic past are coming back to haunt them. You have Hillary Clinton sitting for that interview talking about her husband's past transgressions and also sort of not speaking the language of a modern liberal on that issue, which is I think very problematic for that side. And then you have Elizabeth Warren with this DNA stunt, which, as you mentioned, I think backfired on her tremendously. Because, look, the question with Elizabeth Warren was never, is there some possibility that she at some point had a Native American ancestor. I think that, look, I've done one of those DNA tests or an ancestry DNA. You get all kinds of results back and, all sort of slivers of the world and and different areas around the globe that come back as, registering a small amount from somewhere. But, so the question was not about, does she have some piece of her that is potentially Native American? It was about, did she use Native or did she use that in a way that helped her advance herself professionally? And the answer to that question is yes. And I think that it's especially, it's pretty damning, the fact that it is such a small percentage, and yet she was claiming in professional publications and in professional settings to be Native American. Native American status is set by the tribe. It's not set by the U.S. government, and it's definitely not set by DNA tests. And so I think that the backlash was swift and deserved.
Oh, we even saw Cherokee Nation release a statement, just sort of like disgusted at the charade that was going on yesterday. Even they were, and it should also be pointed out that I think it was even reported that the worst case scenario for her, best case was 164th, worst case was 1024th, and they said that the average American of European descent has like 1/800th Native American blood in them. And so she could actually be worse than like the average American of European descent, which is just like amazing, considering, as you pointed out, that she actually has used that in her career, in businesses or in colleges that she worked for, touted that in her career. Once again, we're talking with Alex Wilkes, Executive Director of America Rising PAC. One of the other things I took away from yesterday as well, Alex, was I saw that the Republican Governors Association had a record-breaking third quarter. I think for the 2017-2018 fundraising year, they brought in about $156 million, and I think it was $50 million more than the Democrats. And what was amazing to me about that is that, the national stories, who's going to take the House, the Senate, that gets all the attention. We understand that. But what's really been amazing about the Republicans is their ability to organize and have so much success on the state level. Winning governor's mansions and state legislatures and attorney general offices. And that's where they've done an amazing job. And so to me, I saw that the RGA, which maybe didn't get that much attention, to me is very important because it shows the Republicans are continuing to excel in areas where you do see most of the change, and that's at the state level.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. I think that's been one of the most untold stories of the last couple of cycles, is how much Republicans have taken over at the state level. And what's important about that is that those state legislators and statewide offices are great training grounds and places for these candidates to eventually become federal candidates that everybody knows. So, the the Democrats, I think, are dealing with a leadership crisis, particularly because their leadership is not very diverse and pretty old. Republicans have a lot of young, vibrant leaders that are coming from that state culture. On the fundraising end of things, I think that the Kavanaugh hearings, again, it was a light switch, not just for voters, but for Republican donors as well. A lot of the heavyweights, I think, are investing big because, the House no longer looks like a foregone conclusion, and the Senate definitely looks to be pretty promising. So I think that you're seeing a lot of these donors reinvest while you are also seeing the Republican base say, I got to get out and vote this time.
I think that's a good point about the training ground because, let's face it, it seems like every Democrat in the Senate is going to run for president in 2020. And, people in the Senate tend to be older. It's sort of, that's sort of the pinnacle of your political life is when you become a U.S. senator. And so therefore, they're going to be more likely to be older. They're more likely to be, like I said, sort of maybe in the twilight of their life versus those that are maybe governors or state legislators or even in Congress. But that's, I think, one of the problems that is hurting the Democrats is so many of their leaders are coming from the Senate where you are more likely to see, older politicians than, like I said, somewhere like governors. So that is a very good point. Alex, unfortunately, we're out of time. But as always, I appreciate you joining us here on the show this morning. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Sounds good.
All right, once again, Alex Wilkes, Executive Director of America Rising PAC. Always appreciate her taking the time joining us here on the program. We got to go to a break.
necessarily at the feet of Dianne Feinstein just because of the Kavanaugh hearings. I think that really energized and closed the gap in some of these Senate races. Some people who were sitting on the fence all of a sudden weren't sitting on the fence anymore. And so people like Heidi Heitkamp and Claire McCaskill, Senator Bill Nelson, they have a lot to answer for with their constituents for their votes. And particularly some of these senators like Claire McCaskill voted against both Judge Gorsuch and now Justice Kavanaugh.
Right.
So they always had a tough road ahead of them. 5 of these senators out of the 10 that are running in states that the president won in 2016, 5 of them are running in states that he won by double digits. And so they always had a hard road ahead of them, and they made it that much harder for themselves in taking the wrong side in this Kavanaugh fight.
And in addition, it appears that the president's coattails going back to 2016 still come into play with the Senate, Alex, because those states that he really did quite well in, those previously strong Democrat senators, looks like they might be going and getting another job as a lobbyist in the near future, right?
Yeah, I don't feel too sorry for them. They won't be hurting for cash. But
no, that's.
But look, I mean, they did it to themselves because when President Trump was elected, they talked a big game about working with him and being bipartisan and being someone who was going to deal fairly with him. And instead, they have stood against him, and they have stood with Chuck Schumer every step of the way.
Yep.
And so, their constituents are going to make them pay for it.
Alex, I want to thank you so much for coming on our broadcast. Would you be interested in coming on again? I'd love to have you on Delmarva Live again in the near future.
Absolutely. Anytime.
All right. Terrific. Thank you so much. That's Alex Wilkes from America Rising. Thank you so much, Alex. We're listening.